So, I was looking at some financial reports the other day, and it's kind of mind-boggling how much goes into these things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like the sheer volume of data can be overwhelming, right? It's like trying to understand a complex recipe with way too many ingredients.
Exactly. And it's not just about the numbers. There are all these regulations and compliances, like it's a whole ecosystem.
Right. And that's crucial, I mean, to maintain transparency and trust, especially when it comes to financial institutions. We were looking at Bajaj Housing Finance Limited, right?
Yeah, that's the one. So they had a board meeting on January 27th, 2025, and they approved some pretty significant stuff, like what's the big deal about their unaudited financial results?
Well, those results are key, right? They give us a peek into how the company performed in the last quarter and 9 months, specifically ending December 31st, 2024. Think of it like a report card showing how well they managed their finances.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like a snapshot of their financial health at that moment, but it's unaudited.
Yeah, unaudited means it's not yet verified by an external auditor, but it gives a pretty good picture. And they've got two different accounting firms doing reviews, so that adds some weight to it.
Two firms? That sounds like a double check. And then they also mentioned something about non-convertible debentures. What's that all about?
Okay, so non-convertible debentures or NCDs are basically a way for the company to borrow money, right? They are offering these as debt instruments to investors on a private placement basis within a borrowing limit of 1,50,000 crore rupees. It's like they are issuing an IOU.
Okay. So it's like a loan, but instead of going to a bank, they're going to investors. And what's with all the other documents they released, like the limited review report and stuff?
Right. So that limited review report, that's the one where the auditors say, hey, we looked at their stuff and nothing major seems out of place. They also included a press release, a security cover certificate, and a statement on the use of commercial paper, among other things.
Wow, that's a lot of paperwork. So it's all about being transparent and adhering to regulations, right? But what about the actual financial performance? What were the highlights?
Well, their assets under management grew by 26% year on year, which is pretty solid. That means they're managing significantly more assets now. It's like their financial garden is growing bigger.
Got it. Their garden is expanding. And what about the profit? Was there good news there too?
Yes, their net interest income increased by 25%, and their profit before tax also grew by 25%. It seems they were pretty efficient with managing their finances. Profit after tax also jumped 25%. So things are looking up, wouldn't you say?
Definitely sounds like it. So growth on both the asset side and the profit side, that's what we want to see. But, they also mention non-performing assets or NPAs. What are those?
Okay, so NPAs or non-performing assets are basically loans where the borrower isn't making payments. It's like a leaky faucet, money that should be coming in but isn't.
Oh, I see. So how did they fare on that front?
Well, their gross NPA is at 0.29% and their net NPA is at 0.13%, which is actually quite low. So they're managing their loan portfolio pretty well, it seems.
Okay, those percentages seem small, which is good, I guess. And they also talked about their capital adequacy ratio being 27.86%. What's that about?
That's basically how much capital they have compared to their risk-weighted assets. It's like having a solid foundation for a building, ensuring they have enough capital to absorb potential losses. And their regulatory requirement is only 15%, so they're way above that.
Okay, that's a nice cushion then. And one other thing I saw was about a security cover certificate. What's the deal with that?
That certificate basically ensures that the value of their assets is sufficient to cover the outstanding debt from the NCDs. It's like they have enough collateral backing their debt. So investors know they're safe, relatively speaking.
That's good to know. So they're not just borrowing without any backing. It sounds like they've got a good grasp on all the financial stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important for a financial institution, right? And they also gave details about their loan assignments and acquisitions. They're pretty active in this area, like trading financial instruments almost.
Right. And it's interesting how they break down their loan assignments and acquisitions, those retention and acquisition percentages. Do you think this is something we can dig into on our next episode?
Definitely. It's a good point. I think understanding these transactions is crucial to understanding the full scope of what they're doing. It's a bit like understanding how they're rotating inventory in a retail business.
Exactly. Makes sense. So I saw that they've also talked about their initial public offering or IPO and how they've used the funds.
Ah, yes. So they raised a lot of capital through the IPO, and they've said that they're using all of it to augment their capital base for onward lending. So basically, they're using the money to lend more money. It's like a financial perpetual motion machine, sort of.
Well, that's interesting. And they even have a detailed breakdown of how that money was used. That's good transparency.
Absolutely. It helps investors understand where their money is going. They also included a statement of no deviation from the stated objects of the issue, which is always good to see.
Okay, so they're sticking to the plan, no major surprises there. And all these documents, they're available on the company's website and the stock exchange websites, right?
Yes, that's right. They're pretty transparent about making these reports available to the public. It's like a public library for financial data.
I like that, a public library of finances. So, overall, it seems like they've had a solid quarter with growth in multiple areas and healthy financials.
Yeah, pretty much. They've shown growth, maintained decent asset quality, and have good capital adequacy. They also included some interesting details about security cover and the use of funds, which show their commitment to transparency.
That's a good summary. So, looking at all this and seeing the company's growth and stability makes me curious to know more about it all.
Me too. It's always fascinating to see how these big financial players operate. But it's also crucial to remind everyone that this is not financial advice. Disclaimer: we advise investors to check with certified experts before taking any investment decisions.
Absolutely, that's very important to note. And also, if you're finding this conversation useful, don't forget to hit that like button, share this with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more such discussions.
Exactly. And on that note, what are your thoughts on the company's future outlook? Do you see these trends continuing?
Well, based on their performance this quarter and their strategic differentiators, I'd say the outlook seems positive. But financial markets can be unpredictable. So it will be interesting to see how they navigate future challenges. What's your take?
Right, I'd agree with you on that. They have a good mix of retail and commercial products and a diversified borrowing structure, so they seem well positioned. But time will tell, obviously. Maybe we should look at other financial companies next time for comparison.
That's a great idea. We can compare and contrast and see what we can learn from other industry players. But for now, I think that gives us a solid overview of Bajaj Housing Finance's latest financials.
Yeah, and it highlights how much goes into these big financial institutions. It's a lot more complex than it seems on the surface.
It really is. Well, thanks for breaking it all down with me. It always helps to have your insightful perspective.
Anytime. I enjoy looking into all of this. It's fascinating. And, there is always something new to learn, right? So let's see what the next financial reports bring.
Absolutely. So that's a wrap for today. And we'll see you in the next one with hopefully more exciting information.